Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be learning how to use Adobe Illustrator to make shapes and combine shapes and layer shapes and stuff like that. So let's make a new document. Here's a new document, button says create a new document. Pretty sure I clicked on it. There we go. Now it's awake. And some of the stuff is off your screen. I want to make things big so you can see them easily. So some things are clipped. And when I choose a new document I have some choices. I'm going to choose letter today. And I like to work landscape, so this is landscape, this is portrait. So the orientation shows there, and just switches these two values for width and height. You can set this to, I think the default might be points or pixels or who knows what, but I always switch to inches because I understand inches. You can make your own choices. But make sure if I tell you to make something 10 by 10 inches, that you choose the inches, because if you do 10 by 10 pixels, it's very tiny. So once I've got that going on, I can click the Create button, and here's my new document. And there's my workspace. So if I choose, and what I've got set up here, by the way, is the Essentials setup. So if I choose Workspace and Reset Essentials, my tools are over here. I like my tools set up like this. Yours probably shows up like this. So I set them to double wide because I see more tools. I can see my swatches. Okay, there's a bunch of tools here I don't even use, but those are all the ones I'm going to use today. I also see properties, which I'm not going to use too much. Layers I'm going to use like crazy today. Now notice I got one layer, nothing in it so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by talking about shapes. All my shapes available are in the shapes menu here, in the menu for the tools. Rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star, and flare. Don't use the flare tool yet. It's kind of fun to mess with actually, but for now just stick to these. Pretty much we're going to use the rectangle and the ellipse. Okay, so rectangle tool. Let me pick a fill color. So if I drag this, that actually has white as its fill. It looks like it's the same color as the background, and for that reason I like to use fill colors that are not the same as the background. So I've got that. Now if I have no fill, you can actually click this and choose the none thing. Now when I click in the middle, I got nothing. If I click the edges, I get something. So I click the point, or I box select by doing that, and I can put the fill back in place. Now, here's what's weird. If you choose your stroke and say no stroke, no fill, where's the shape? Does it still exist? Well, now I've got the shape still there. The path is still there. It just lacks stroke and fill, so it becomes invisible. So I'm going to set this. There's a button right there for default stroke and fill, which is black and white. Let's go to Window and Control. And this control panel shows us a lot of things that we need to use. So let's bump up the size of the stroke. Let's change the fill color to something we like. There we go. So now the selection tool. The selection tool allows us to squish, squash. Now if I don't want that happening and I lose the perfect squareness here, then I can use the shift key with that to maintain the sizes. Also, when I'm using the shape tool, if you hold down shift, it makes it perfect, whereas no shift, you can make it whatever dimensions you want. If I do shift and space, or just space by itself, space lets me move it around while I'm drawing. Sometimes that's useful when you're trying to trace an object. So, and the same thing is true of the ellipse and the other tools. So, also, by the way, there is I don't even use this that much, but if I push Alt, it draws from the center. So if I don't use Alt, it draws from the corner. And if I use Alt, it draws from the center. And again, you can use space with any of these to combine them. So, checking this out, we have one layer, and it has 3 objects in it. So whereas Photoshop has one graphic or one bitmap per layer, in this case we can hold the layer with lots of stuff in it. Within that layer, we can take and change the stacking order. So put things behind them. Now you could do it over here in the layer panel. You can also, let's move this back up front, you can use Object and Transform, which you can't see, it's off the screen. But there's a way you could do that. Let's see. Move that up. And let's see if I can move this around enough to make that visible. Alright, so I'm going to choose, again, Object, Arrange, and bring to the front, bring it forward. And there's keyboard shortcuts, which I love. That's one of my most commonly used keyboard shortcuts is Shift, Control brackets, and Control brackets to move things around. So changing the order is a really important thing to do sometimes. And knowing how to use your layers between again, it's Object and Arrange. It's working with your layer panel, and it's using the shortcuts to change the ordering. So that's one of the things you can use. Now, even though you may have things within the same layer, the layers also have the same issue. I can take a whole layer and move it around in my layers panel. Okay, so that's layers. Now we're going to talk about align. Let's talk about these three shapes here. And let me go find the align panel. So the align panel, if I choose window, there's the align panel. And align shows up with his two best friends, transform and pathfinder, which we're also going to talk about today. So let's just talk about transform for a second. Transform tells us the dimensions and the position. So x and y are the mathematical coordinates on the canvas. And notice the 0, 0. Let's put 0, 0. So the center of the object is the top left part of the screen. So there's 0, 0. Something seems odd about that because I feel like that should be up at the center there. But anyway, there's 0, 0 for that object. That's not 0. That's why. Okay. So 0, 0 here is the top left corner of the object. And if I say x is 11 and y is 8.5, okay, it moves it down there. Now, there's easier, faster, softer way to do this. If you choose the align panel on a single object and you set align properties to artboard, and again, that align, anytime I have an object selected, is going to show up here in the control menu. Now, if you don't see control, again, choose window and control and get that to show up. So you need that. Really, I don't know why it's not open by default. So if we choose align, we can set the alignment to the selection or to the artboard. So with this one set to the artboard, I can go this way, I can go to the top, I can move it around the center, whatever I want to do. Now if I have two objects and I align them to each other, and I'm going to use align to selection, let's align these two to each other. So it's this way, and now one of them is hidden. What do we do? Well, again, you can take that and object, arrange, and send to the back. So now we got those two things circled on each other. Now why would you do that? Well, you might want to punch through to make a large shape. So here's the pathfinder, which uses minus front. We can move this over and we can say, let's make a little sideways purse by using unite. So there's all kinds of weird shapes you can make. Oh, it's a coffee cup. Okay. Or if you turn it this way, it's a purse. It's all about what you're looking at and how you're seeing it. So there we have unite again, minus front. And transform tells us the overall size of it. So we did talk a minute ago about the x and the y positions, but also the width and the height of the object in inches. Now the inches are because that's the dimensions we chose for the canvas. But if we choose new again and we make this one set to picas, okay, it's going to depend upon those sizes of things to determine the size. So now it says width in picas. I don't even know what a pica is. I know it's got to do with print and type. Not really sure, but anyway, there's our picas. So this one uses inches because that was the dimensions we started off with. And again, if you choose view and rulers, show rulers, it's going to use those dimensions there. Let's use rulers here, view, rulers, and this one's in picas, whatever a pica is. So this one's in inches. So those are a few things we can use. And let's just talk about the one remaining Pathfinder object, which is, let's drag this down. I made a copy using Alt. So if I hold down Alt, it makes a copy. If I select both these and we say Pathfinder intersect, it makes that little rainbow shape now. So those are the tools that we use for shapes, for alignment, and for layering. And of course, you can make more layers if you want to on this layer panel with add new layer and stuff like that. So that's a quick and dirty explanation of shapes, layers, alignment, transform, and Pathfinder qualities. Hope that helps. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll try to make a better one. Rock on. Peace.